Welcome back. Thank y'all for joining us for another episode of the Woodsman Perspective Podcast. We're going to do a Throwback Thursday, a fairly short podcast. We're revisiting an episode where we had our good friend Steve Brown on. Steve is an outstanding storyteller and a very accomplished turkey hunter. A lot you can learn from Steve. I learn something every time I talk to this guy. He has killed over, I think he quotes it in this episode, 160 some odd turkeys with a bow. That's not counting what he's done with a shotgun. So it's a great conversation, and we're going to pull it out of the archives for Throwback Thursday. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode with the world famous Dudley Phelps from Aussie Oak Gamekeepers Podcast and Native Nurseries. That's a good episode. Thank y'all for joining us. Hope you enjoy this. See you on the other side. Steve Brown. Does that help if I started recording? Welcome back. This is the Woodsman Perspective Podcast, and we're smack dab in the middle of Mississippi turkey season. And
I think Alabama starts Friday.
Alabama's about to start. You know, we had some of these states with the delayed or the late opening, so they're starting to open. I don't think Tennessee opens for another 2 or 3 weeks.
I think that's right. 15th or something.
Mm-hmm. They're real late, but it's wide open here in Mississippi when the weather's starting to turn right. And we decided we'd bring in a turkey hunter, bring him in the house today, and we got somebody that looks two things that's really good for a podcast. This sucker can kill turkeys and loves to talk.
Well, he's smart on turkeys.
That's right. So if there was a professional, I'm talking about 3-time Mississippi State turkey calling champion, somebody that's competed in the Grand Nationals and just does this professionally on a different level than most of us, and probably the best turkey hunter you may have never heard of from right here. I guess from Macon, lives in Starkville, but we got Steve Brown in the house today.
He understands the game.
He does.
Yes.
I nickname him Mr. Turkey around here.
That's a pretty good name for him.
That
Steve,
no
we're glad you could join us. I asked you to come in and talk, and we're standing around outside when you come pull in. Look, you jumped out of the truck in camouflage.
He was running a little bit late. He's running about 10 minutes late.
That's right.
What's up, Steve? And he said, well, it took a little while to get this one done this morning.
Yeah, so, what's Thursday look like for you today?
Well, thank y'all, Chris and Brent and Mitt. Thank y'all so much for having me. I'm really flattered, honored, and excited to be on your podcast. I've listened to almost all of them now. I think I like 2, but what a fun podcast that y'all got started, and I never dreamed that y'all would actually ask me to come on this thing. So because I know all of you, I like all of you, and you're all great hunters, and Brent, that was a way overdone introduction.
Look, shoot, I think by the time this is over, people will see that I underpromise and you're going to over-deliver.
Look, people listening, this is how good he is. Just tell us how many you kill with a bow. I'd like to know. Just with a bow and arrow now. No gun.
Well, I've been at it a long time, Chris. So, I mean, you know, you got to...
Listen, he ain't that old now. He ain't Kenny Rogers
he's
old.
Not 97.
No, but I have been at it a long time, 50 years of turkey hunting. But I have, as of today, I killed my 162nd turkey with a bow.
Now, listen, y'all, if you're not keeping up with this long-range ammunition, that turkey's got to be within 20 yards. Am I right?
Yeah, he needs to be. I've killed a few.
You like them at 11, don't you?
I like them at about 12, 13, inside of 15. Yeah, but I've killed a few out there stretching it. But I really like their vitals are pretty small, awesome. As you know. You've killed several yourself with a bow, and Brent, you've killed some with a bow.
Yeah, I've killed a couple with a bow, and it's we talked about it some. It's just a different level. It's a different level of difficulty, and it's personally it frustrated. It's hard. It frustrated me.
You turn around, and me and Brent was hunting the other day, and I made a move on one and wound up getting him. Brent got coned out of his, but the turkey saw me. I couldn't imagine having to pull a bow back.
Well, that's what I was just thinking about when Steve was saying that. When you get it was shotgun hunting. You get a turkey within shotgun range, I would pretty well say it's 90% over.
Yeah. Could
you
be.
Get a turkey within bow range, you ain't even got started good yet.
Listen, I get a whole lot of turkeys throughout the course of a season in shotgun range that I never get to shoot with my bow.
Never draw back on
Never
them.
draw
Right.
back.
Have to just watch them.
Yeah, have to watch them. But that's a good point, and I don't want to take over there, Brent. But y'all asked me some questions beforehand.
Right.
When I went to a bow and started, I like a lot of people, I guess, I still didn't want to let that turkey get away, so I was toting both shotgun and a bow
Right.
along for quite a few years.
I did that too before I committed.
I saw you before with a shotgun and a bow.
Yeah, that was years ago.
Years ago.
But I would carry both because inevitably, if I thought, when turkeys, when they coming in, they stop and they adjust that old snoot or crane their head up to look. Well, in the early days, it didn't take much of pausing. If he wasn't coming right on in, I'd slide that bow to the side and grab that shotgun and tear him up.
Right.
But then I realized finally, A, it's a pain to tote both of these things, and B, I knew it could be done.
Enjoy that
and
hunt.
I wanted to learn more. And you can't believe to have to wait beyond or closer once they get shotgun range, and especially now. And I've heard you guys talk about the TSS and all of that. But guys are shooting these turkeys at 75, 80 yards. Or even in the woods now, 60's nothing. Even
Right.
with a 20 gauge.
Right.
I know people shooting them at close to 50 with a 410.
410.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve,
But-
don't you think sitting there with a bow and we're talking about that last 40 or last 50 yards, everything that happens in there, how much better of a turkey
see
hunter
some
does
amazing
that make you,
stuff,
though?
I know.
You think about, because
There's
so
no
many of
question.
them, it would have been over.
No question. You get to see stuff up close that you don't get to. Now, I don't know if it's made me any better of a turkey hunter. I don't claim to be a good turkey hunter, but I can tell you I've learned a whole lot about turkeys
By watching them.
from 40 yards in
amazing.
to what they do.
When most hunts would have ended.
Ended.
High
It'd be-
fiving would have been going
yeah,
on
it'd
and
be
all
over.
that. And,
Yeah,
and that's
it'd
right.
be over. Yeah.
So how much more of that hunt does a bow hunter get to see that a shotgun hunter never gets to witness?
Just tons.
It's
It's
tons.
tons.
It's tons.
It's tons.
I would equate it to what y'all do with deer. What I started learning from deer hunting, sitting in a shooting house and videoing something at your place
Right.
where I didn't take that shot and I was forced to sit and watch. You just learn more from watching. That's kind of what prompted me to
I
ask.
say the whole time, deer-wise, turkeys, same thing, Steve, and anything, I guess, wildlife. But I never knew. I thought I knew everything about a deer because I studied, and that was my passion. But until I started watching them and not shooting them, I didn't know anything.
Right.
And it was a small, and me and you talked about it a lot, Mitt. And turkeys are such a cool animal,
Right.
And nobody really understands them.
When I made I jumped off the deep end. When I went to bow hunting, I did it exclusive.
I
I
remember
went
you bow hunting.
that year because I had somebody tell me you can't kill a turkey with a bow, and that's my wife will tell you that's the quickest way to get me to do something.
Ain't
tell me
no
you
doubt
can't.
about that.
So, but similar to what you were talking about, Steve, I called in 7 longbeards, 7 painful longbeards inside gun range before I drew back the first time.
Wow.
And
It just wasn't turned
Yeah,
right.
that
just
sounds a lot like my bow
everything
hunting.
went wrong.
Yep.
I mean, it's just so that taught me a lot.
Steve, at people that don't know, where do you shoot him at? Where would you shoot that?
Well, it
turkey
depends.
at?
It depends on what
Your
kind of,
favorite
what
shot.
kind of broad. Well, I love
right
I
in
love,
the onion.
I like I
guillotine.
like a headshot. I really do.
Are you kidding me?
I do. I like a headshot. Now they
Wow.
need to be inside of they really need to be inside of 15 yards. And then the problem with that is it's a real small target. But the good thing about that is usually 99% of the time you either kill him or you miss him.
You don't booger
That's
him.
right. You don't because their vitals are so small when you shoot them in the body that the tendency for a lot of people that and it's difficult for me too when that turkey's at 14 yards and he's and he's blown up right there or he's hacking your decoy that you've got out. He's knocked him over and given him the Super Sammy slap, and he's purring over the top of him and he's jittering, gyrating, and moving. He needs to be still. And
I'm about to gobble.
And it's and it's about the size of a baseball, Chris, that you got to shoot. So
That's unbelievable.
in the posture, their vitals change. If you
Standing
think about
erect,
it.
full strut.
That's
I mean,
right. It all
those-
changes because and their lungs and their heart sit high. If you've ever
And
drawn the guts on a turkey, if you've
Yeah,
ever
sure.
gone
Yeah.
up through his back end, right around his tail, and pulled all the guts out, so you can
Right.
put a little ice in there if you
Right.
couldn't clean him at the time.
Right, we did it in Texas.
Yeah, well, so you realize right up against his body cavity, if you flipped him over on his back, you scrape those lungs and stuff. So that's real hard to to
get
hit
that.
unless he's walking dead away from you. So you always want to shoot high. There's an old saying I heard somewhere. I can't remember. I'd love to give the person credit, but with a bow, shoot them low, watch them go. Shoot them high, and you can watch them die.
Yeah.
So a higher shot is better. And of course, you want to find the legs, and you don't want to be breast side. They can take. I've shot turkeys, unfortunately, and hit them more forward through the breast and lost a few. Right. And I've actually found some, left them overnight, found them still alive the next day, one with a baseball size hole through them. And
just tough.
And they're tough. Pound for pound, I was having that conversation about 2 hours ago. Pound for pound, and I've not killed all the animals and critters from Africa and all that stuff. I've killed quite a few deer and some other mountain lions and things like that, but elk. But pound for pound, in my opinion, wild turkey is one of the toughest creatures to bring down with a bow.
When I was early on, somebody told me that come up from the legs, over from the beard. I've perfected that aiming point a little bit better since then.
Right.
But that's pretty close.
It is if he's standing.
That's right.
If he's in full strut, you want to do that same thing, but you want to follow the base of his wattles across. So you're going to be a lot higher than his beard.
Yep.
You want to come straight up from his leg, and then depending on the quartering, you always, just like we do with deer, Chris, you want to find his offside leg.
Right.
And you want, because he could be quartering hard. You may have to be behind his front
his
side
offside leg.
and aim at his offside leg, and above. If you draw an imaginary horizontal line through the middle of the turkey, you want to be above that horizontal.
Yeah, that's good.
So.
And think about this, guys. Steve could have been sitting on this turkey for 2 or 3 hours, and if anybody's ever been a turkey hunter, and you sitting on that root, and that leg's asleep, and that tail, half that tail's asleep, you can't adjust. And he's having to pull this bow back.
That mosquito's sitting on the tip of your nose. He's just got to suck.
Right. I mean, it's amazing to watch one get killed with a bow.
Well, shoot.
But
think about this. There's always, we set up on turkeys, especially a gobbler that's got a hen, and you got it when you need to move. When he finally breaks, there's always that dang scout
that set of
hangs behind.
That's
It keeps one eye on you. I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The one that pins you down. I mean, there's a lot that could go wrong. But Steve, I'm curious. So we kind of set the table for the way you do this. And probably built a little bit of your credentials, but how'd you get there? A little background. Let's back up a little bit and give us a little bit of
what made you love turkey so much.
Well, my father was a turkey hunter, and I grew up in Noxubee County. And when I was real young, there weren't just a whole lot of turkey hunters. Right. There weren't near as many turkeys either.
Right.
But my father really loved turkey hunting and took me at a very young age. I was 6 years old the very first time I went turkey hunting with him, and fortunately, that particular morning, we were on old Sun Creek Hunting Club out on Highway 14.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Joined back up to Erickson, part of Erickson's.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Know exactly where it's at.
And actually, our mutual friend now, and I'm having that sometimes moment because I have been turkey hunting.
Sometimes moment.
I remember sometimes I don't. But the guy over there with the farm, they've got the YouTube channel, and I apologize.
Hollis.
Yeah, Hollis. Hollis owns a lot of that property
That
back in
used
there.
to, right.
That joins that now. So I'm sorry, Hollis, I forgot. But anyway, that morning, my very first morning, my dad called a turkey and shot him. And I remember the turkey gobbling. I can remember it vividly, only at 6 years old. But
awesome.
But he went out there. He told me, "You stay right here. I'm gonna run out there and get him." I got him. He ran out there, and he comes back with 2 big old giant 11-inch beards. He didn't realize the other one was behind him, and he killed 2. And we've got a picture somewhere.
You think that's what he told you, Steve, or do you think
that's what he said?
Making an impression.
That's what he said to a 6-year-old. I don't know, but I really don't. I don't believe he did. Yeah. It was pretty thick in there. I remember that. But we got a picture somewhere of me as a little bitty guy and him holding 2 big old turkeys. Cool. And I remember it got
cool
on
to make
me.
a painting of that one.
Yeah, it stuck with me, and I hadn't missed a year since that time.
That's
and I didn't start killing turkeys until I was 11 years old. But, but anyway. And
we'll give you a 5-year pause, I guess. That is awesome. Like you're saying, back then, Noxubee and now Kemper always had them.
That's right.
A lot of them.
Yep.
And just, I don't know why, this the terrain and everything, but
outside of that, Chris, you about had to go to the Delta,
right,
or over into Alabama
to find them.
Yeah, they had them over there.
I remember here interviewing a lot of the old school people. 62, the early 60s was when they let them go in a lot of these places. and you know that they come off of those. You know, one guy showed an old man. I remember this to this day. A guy showed me, said these turkeys always would roost in a cypress slough, and he said those turkeys been roosting there since the '60s. I said, what? And I said, what do you mean since the '60s? He said, when the State Department, U.S., Mississippi Game and Fish back then, when they trapped them in Kemper County and in the Delta, and they brought them and put them in several places. And if you got lucky enough to get them, Mitt, y'all's place down there got them in the prairie, and in this particular place, and those turkeys flew up in there, and it's amazing how smart a turkey and what they nurture their young. But we're talking 2005, so we're talking 40-something years later. They're still roosting in those cypress trees.
Absolutely.
And the animal only lives 3 years.
That's right.
4.
That's right.
It's pretty amazing.
That's the beauty of hunting
Yeah.
and learning a place, because typically once you learn a place, a particular piece of land,
Right.
The turkeys. I actually had a guy out of Texas that I just recently. He's trying to kill a turkey in every state in the United States.
That's awesome.
And he's been to this was his 3rd time to come to Mississippi, and he told me, he said, "Man, Mississippi's tough." He called me on the phone and said, "Do you take Mississippi?" I don't take a lot of Mississippi hunters. I told him. I said, "Because I just don't have the places, but I'll take you." And
Right.
And he thanked me. So we got after he was here for the opener, and we got on some turkeys. Couldn't do anything with them. The next morning, Thursday, to your point, I told him the exact same thing. We got on, and almost happened that morning. And then it got quiet about 9 o'clock, and we hung in there at about 11:30, and he was about 4 or 5 yards from me, and I crawled over to him, and I told him, I said, "Keith, these turkeys, I've killed their great grandfathers." I said, "They do the exact same thing in here." I said, "I've hunted this place for 40 years.
Awesome.
This
That is
particular
awesome.
place I've hunted for 40 years.
Yeah.
These turkeys, they're quiet." Because he had shrugged his shoulders at me a couple of times, like, "What are we going to do?" And I would tell him for the last 2 hours.
They're coming.
I said,
Yeah.
I said, "These turkeys are less than 400 yards from us, and will be all day." I said, "If we just patient, he might get cranked back up again." Well, so I made him stay there for a little while, and then I had some phone calls and stuff. I didn't have very good cell signal down there, and I was getting some text. I couldn't text back out, so I crawled back over to him about quarter, and my belly was kind of rumbling, and I crawled back over to him, and I said, "Hey, we got 2 options here. We can go slide out of here and go eat a big old lunch at the Trail Boss there."
Right.
And
Yeah, that's
'cause
right.
they
Pretty
got
good
fried,
lunch.
they got fried pork chops today.
You dialing in where you hunting now, Steve.
Yeah.
We might have
And
to
I
just
said,
put
I
editing.
said, "Now I got a granola bar and a couple bottles of water. We can stay here all day, but I think I need to make some phone calls real quick. I got some other hunters that some
Right.
other hunters for calling me about stuff." I said, "I think we can slide out of here real quick, take about an hour and a half break, and I can make my phone calls. We can eat a good lunch, and we can slide back in here this afternoon by 2 o'clock." And I said, "We'll stay with them till dark." And I said, "If we do that and we don't get busted coming in or out,
Right.
I think we'll be fine."
You
And
got him with that rice and gravy, though.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
that's what got him.
I did. I told him that fried pork chop. His lady
he couldn't take it.
Mississippi.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I
and
got
it-
him.
and it was good.
Yeah.
But we slid back in there, Chris, at 2 o'clock.
Wow.
And I made the first call. I think I looked at my watch. It was like 3 minutes after. Nothing. And I called pretty loud because they were kind of
Right.
up this little old SMZ. And I called pretty loud. It had been 3 hours or so since I'd called, So I called, nothing. And he was sitting over my left shoulder, and in front of me, I was sitting over his right shoulder. He's right-handed, and I waited about 10 minutes, and I pulled out a sweet little old scratch box. I'm going to plug my buddy old Jim Willcutt. Y'all all know Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Jim made me one of the sweetest little poplar and cedar scratch boxes. It's got a different sound. It really sounds good.
Right.
High pitch, but just real small, just subtle, just yoop, 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 yoop. I started kind of yipping on that just a little bit. Couple times, and I put it down. And I had him in the good shade. And I was baking in the sun, and I was facing kind of towards the south, thinking that another turkey that we had heard off in
satellite.
distance might come sliding in. So I was really watching, and I hear him whisper something, and I look down. All I can see is his right shoulder, and I see his butt of his stock there sitting, underneath his arm, and I see it starting to move. And I cut my eyes to the right, cut my eyes to the left, and I can't see any turkeys. I said, they got to be right in front of him. I know he's seeing turkeys. And by this time, he shouldered the shotgun. And I said,
So it's going to be game time.
yes, and I don't want to miss this thing. So I turned my head. I just eased out around the tree and looked, and sure enough, that's two big old longbeards right there at 20 yards. Looking.
Never said a word.
Never said a word. 2:15. Oh, excuse me, 2:20, and I made the first call at 2:03.
That's knowing your turkeys right there.
He said, "That's unbelievable.
That's knowing your property.
That's
so
what we
said
tell
that
Steve.
He crawled out and back
in.
between some rice and gravy. And
That's right.
Look, it took and closed the deal in 20
Was
minutes.
just short of a nap.
But look,
a post lunch
don't
nap.
miss
Man, I'm gonna text
the way
Carrie and have her make you some rice and gravy
That's
tonight.
on my mind now. Don't miss the way he started that story.
Yep.
This boy guides all over the U.S. and in Mexico. Guides all over. But what he said, he don't guide in his home state.
Yep.
Like my buddy Joyner Williams said, yeah, you can go turkey hunting with me, but you got to bring your
Bring
own
your own
turkeys.
turkey.
But
this guy was really
what you said was spot on. And Chris, we've had this conversation before. That we may be giving away too many secrets, but once you learn how turkeys utilize a track, generationally, unless there's some big change in a timber change, something like that, but they're going to use that property the same way. Once you learn the property, you can kill those turkeys.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Unless you smoke the timber off of it.
I'm interested, Steve, on how you made the transition to exclusive bow hunting. I know when I did it, there was several years in there, and I'll still take my shotgun some, but there was several years in there I went to exclusive bow hunting too. And the reason I did it, I didn't have a lot of turkeys. That first year before I started, I killed a couple of turkeys early, and my whole month of April was silent. And I said, I'll never do this again. I love to hunt too much.
Right.
And so I went to bow hunting just to make my season last
Extend that
longer.
season.
That's right, because I just didn't have the turkeys.
And have good hunts.
And have good hunting.
And that's what I told Brent. We were talking 2 or 3 nights ago, and we were talking about the same exact thing, and I'll get into it. But I told him that same thing back when I wanted to extend my season, because with a shotgun, knowing the land and knowing the turkeys, not that I'm a good turkey hunter, but we had more turkeys. It was over.
You could knock them out.
It was
quick,
over too quick.
Right.
I'll be done before April.
Yeah.
And with a bow, it's not. Even though I'm having a pretty good year this year, before I leave, it's almost over now. We're not to April with my bow, but the way I did that, Mitt. Thanks for that question, and I'll go back to part of what Brent was asking me. So that story when I was 6. Kept hunting, just fell in love with turkey hunting. It was and loved all kinds of hunting, whether it was frog hunting or rabbit hunting or dove hunting or whatever it was.
Right.
Deer hunting, loved deer. And shortly after that, I got my first bow when I was 11. It was a recurve, and I still haven't killed anything with that particular recurve. I've got a recurve longbow I've killed with, but that little 40-pound Bear Kodiak Magnum, I still have it. I've missed 2 semi-truckloads of deer and everything. I think the only thing I ever killed with it was a rabbit, but I did kill that. But anyway, Brent, you taking that picture of me, you got me off his
game now.
Brent's over here taking pictures. I'm trying to suck in my belly and look good.
Yeah, I was just getting a little shot of video.
Yeah.
Look, I do want to get a picture with all y'all before we get out, but. Anyway, I fell in love with bow hunting
At a young age.
At a very young age. Turkey hunting was my very first love and passion, but bow hunting second. And I played with it, and just like what you said, goes back to high school. I'd gotten to where I was killing some turkeys, but I started calling in some contests and all that kind of stuff, and had some success, and I wanted to take it to the next level. And I'd seen a video of Ben Rogers Lee, who I didn't know, knew who he was and all that. And later in the calling circuit, when I was calling, I actually was privileged enough to meet Mr. Ben and get to be very dear friends with him before he got killed tragically. And I was in college at Mississippi State when he got killed, and I got the phone call. But great guy, heck of a turkey hunter. But I saw him kill a turkey over in Alabama with a bow. When Alabama, it was illegal to hunt with it was illegal to hunt with decoys. You couldn't use decoys.
Yeah,
he called one up and killed it with a bow.
Too long ago they changed that.
That's right, and you still can't when Alabama opens. This was it Friday? I mean
Saturday.
The first couple of weeks.
The first week you can't hunt with decoys now, but back then it was illegal. Of course, you could also kill 6 turkeys over there
at one time.
At one time, you could. When I was hunting over there, you could kill 6. But I saw Ben, they had a videotape. He had a video cameraman with him and crawled up on a ditch bank, and the turkey came back, went behind a tree, and he shot it without a blind, without decoys. Shot him at about 20 yards.
Probably
and
without sights.
Yeah, it was one of those old bows.
And the camera wasn't a handy cam either. I can tell
no,
you.
it was probably
big as a suitcase,
Like a cinder block.
One of them betas.
And I remember seeing that, and I was like, man, it can be done. I'd always dreamed of doing it. So I started playing with it kind of in high school and to very little success. We didn't have the decoys that we have today, didn't have the tent blinds, and I was like, I was just set up next to, like I always turkey hunting, set up next to an old cherry bark oak, in that Noxubee River swamp, and hear him gobble and call him right up to, 25 yards, and he'd be looking. And back in those days, my only decoy I had was a silhouette. It was just a little silhouette decoy. And I'd sit there, and he'd look at it, and I think he's trying to figure out what it was. And every time I tried to draw on one, and it gone. And so I did that about 6 times, and I was like, I'd get aggravated, and I'd get my shotgun and go kill
All
something.
your buddies are probably killing turkeys, and you're out there.
By this time, I
That's
got
how it
buddies.
was when I started trying to bow hunt.
Have you killed turkey, Steve? No, I've been bow hunting. I've killed too. And then I run into somebody else. They just get all over me, so I'd go get my shotgun and go kill some turkeys. Well, by the time I got in college, I had, before I got out of college, I had actually shot 5 or 6 with my bow, and had it, but it still wasn't. That was that time that I wouldn't take. Then I started back again in my late 20s. I went back again through a period where I was just toting a shotgun, and I was traveling a lot and shooting some grand slams and stuff like that. But then I thought, well, I'm gonna pick that bow back up again. I'm gonna shoot a grand slam with it. So it was about 25 years ago. So I was probably around 30 years old, 31, and I said, if I'm gonna ever be able to do this efficiently, I'm gonna have to leave the shotgun and take the bow, and only the bow. And I know that my numbers, traveling and everything else, my numbers, turkey numbers, harvest, kill. I hate the word harvest. The turkeys that I'm gonna kill, the numbers are going to decrease significantly, and they did. But it was a lot of trial and error, but that's how. But I loved bow hunting. Was a close second to my love for turkey hunting, bow hunting, anything, and it still is. But I finally married those two, and it's been wonderful. And I went about 10 years where I did not kill. I wouldn't dream of shooting. I wouldn't shoot him at all. But back to your point, Mitt. If I get, it was 2 or 3 years ago, I got on a stubborn turkey, and I don't think I've killed but 3 or 4 with a shotgun in the last 5 years. But if I get one just aggravates me, I knew he was going to be a good one. He had fooled me, and I'd taken my wife. Yeah, and I just knew he was going to be a 4 or 5-year-old turkey. And I finally broke my shotgun out and went that morning and called him right up.
I still like
and he was a 2-year-old.
Every now and then.
Yeah,
it is that DuPont smell.
DuPont, I love to smell it.
But I get to smell a lot of that when I carry my.
That's right.
When I guide a lot, and most of them are shooting them with a shotgun. As soon as they shoot. And they run out there and get a turkey. I grab that shell.
Put it right in your nose.
It smells good. It does.
I'm telling you, I do it every time.
On a
That's
crisp
funny.
spring morning,
Yes,
it's
sir.
hard to beat.
It's funny the similarities and things like that.
That's one of my favorite
So
smells.
you was talking earlier about, and you brought up the grand slams, and I know you've killed a bunch of them because I remember when.
All right, look, hope y'all enjoyed that one. That was a great conversation with Steve Brown. If you want to hear the full episode, you go back in the archives. It's Brown and Company Outfitters. I think Talking Turkeys with Brown and Company Outfitters. It was a good episode. The whole conversation was good. That was just a nice short Throwback Thursday. Got NWTF convention coming up. Some of y'all are there right now as I'm publishing this. I don't know when you'll listen to this, but right now it's going to drop on Thursday, February 13th. Some of y'all will be in Nashville, and Hunter and Chris will be there Thursday. I'll be up Saturday. Amanda and I are coming up, so maybe we'll see y'all. If you hear this and you're in time and you see us, holler at us, speak to us. We'd like to hear from you. On that note, wherever you're watching or listening, it would help us a lot if you left a review, comment, subscribe. All of those things really help us out. We appreciate it. We enjoy doing this, and that would just help us. That feedback helps us, keeps us rolling, helps us keep us regular and keeping podcasts coming out. So thank y'all very much. Have a good day.